Big noon kickoff. Here's the voice of college football at our network, Joel Klatt. Yeah, I've been pretty rough on you last couple of weeks.
Yeah, but I've been right, so that's fine. You can take it.
Well,
whatever you want is fine.
No friendly fire here. You're part of the company for the time being. And my point is I should probably be nicer to you.
Oh, is that it?
So, you know what? Let's go to your top 10.
Let's do it.
You have the guts. The best team you've seen so far is?
Ohio State.
Okay, I'd go LSU, but the Buckeyes have a pass rusher, by the way. It looks better than Bosa's, maybe?
I know. Yeah, they do, actually. Chase Young is his name. If you haven't seen Chase Young, he's phenomenal. I know the Bosas are phenomenal players, but, for, I guess, the third time in, 4 or 5 years, Ohio State's going to have the number one defensive player drafted in the NFL draft. His name's Chase Young. He's a dominant player. I didn't have the guts to actually separate Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson.
Yeah, they're all good.
That's my fault. I should have. Ohio State, I think, is the best team in the country. They've proven it on the field. They have been dominant, Colin. And the one area that I think people had questions about was their suspect defense from a year ago. Their defense this year has been unbelievable. And Justin Fields, their quarterback, the transfer from Georgia, he has transformed their offense so that J.K. Dobbins, their running back, is now more of a threat. He's averaging 7 yards per carry, which was more in line with what he did as a freshman. Ohio State has been absolutely dominant. They've been the best team I've seen so far.
By the way, I like the fact you didn't dip into – you've been very, very tough on Notre Dame, but you were good this week. I have to constantly
you do. I'm sure.
By the way, I came out of the game with Notre Dame more impressed.
I did too. I think it's and it's first of all, I'll start by saying this. The environment at Georgia was incredible.
It was great.
I mean, that light show rivaled like a U2 concert.
It was amazing.
It was insane, right? And yet, here's this road team who was still had a chance to win inside the 50-yard line, down only 6 after 12 penalties and 2 turnovers.
In the southern humidity at night in the biggest crowd in Georgia history. I kind of came out of that game and I thought, Notre Dame's for real.
Yeah, and they're one area where, and I said it to you last week, their rush defense is something I was concerned about, and it was good.
It was really good.
In fact, Georgia only ran the ball for a little over 150 yards, and that's the lowest that they've run for at home in quite some time. So I'm with you. I actually came out of this very impressed with Notre Dame. The hard part, without a championship game for them, I'm not seeing the avenue for a playoff for Notre Dame. I don't think it exists this year.
Well, you would need Oklahoma to lose because Washington's out. So the Pac-10's not going to have somebody.
Well, you're going to need champions in the SEC and Big 12 to have 2 losses.
Listen,
so then you can have an argument.
Listen, the SEC teams, Auburn and Georgia and LSU, they're all going to lose late. Now, the question is, will the voters, when LSU and Auburn lose? Auburn shocked me.
Auburn's going to lose twice because they're going to lose to Alabama and to LSU.
They're not good enough offensively to beat the Georgias and the LSUs and the Alabamas.
Correct.
So I think you're going to have – now, Alabama will survive. Clemson – if I had to guess today, I would go Ohio State. Well, no, I gotta be careful. Wisconsin looks good.
Yep.
I think Ohio State would be the northern team. Let's get to Harbaugh, who we have defended to the end.
Yeah, we have.
And I don't want to hear about, his coordinator. The bottom line is, I heard a story this week that he hired the coordinator and never met him face-to-face. The offense is a mess.
That is true.
It's a mess. This is on Jim.
It is. Okay, so let's unpack all of that. And I want to start with, you and I get a lot like, oh, you guys are the Harbaugh guys. Well, the subject of Jim Harbaugh is very partisan. It's very partisan in that if you're in the anti-Harbaugh crowd or the Harbaugh is overrated crowd, then no one's allowed to give him any credit. Right. Or else you just scream and shout and kick and scream. Okay? No. When you say he's a very good football coach and he's proven that over a long period of time, that is true. However, in the last 5 games, something has happened. And he went chasing something that has failed.
Yes.
To this point. I don't know if it's going to, change. This change of offensive philosophy has failed so far.
It's unwatchable.
It is. And the one area where you would always say at least Harbaugh teams in general are, what would you say, tough at the line of scrimmage.
They're not.
They got pushed around the defensive line. The offensive line was awful. I mean, they were running into each other. They couldn't pick up very easy and basic stunts from Wisconsin's defense. Wisconsin's defense is very good. I don't want to take anything away from Wisconsin.
It's not 28-0
But Michigan was atrocious and have been ever since that game at Ohio State. And I just wondered, I wonder to myself, and the anti-Harbaugh crowd is going to hate this, but I wonder aloud with you all, if the spot had been correct in 2016 against Ohio State, and if they get the punt off against Michigan State, do you think he goes through this kind of mid-coaching crisis this last year and changes his offensive philosophy?
No, I will say, in those Big Ten jobs, Michigan has to beat Ohio State. Ohio State has to beat Michigan, and if you don't, it shifts. It shifts
drastically.
Yeah, I won't use the overused word narrative, but John Cooper was a great coach. He couldn't beat Michigan.
He couldn't.
And John Cooper now is a, quote, losing coach at Ohio State. He averaged 10.5 wins a year.
That's correct. So it doesn't matter that Harbaugh has kind of pulled Michigan up by their bootstraps from the 7 years between Lloyd Carr and himself. It doesn't matter that he's averaged 3 more wins. It really
in a better Big Ten. In a better Big Ten.
In a better Big Ten, and it doesn't matter. This has been a failure of philosophical change. Now, that doesn't mean that it can continue to be a failure.
Yeah.
They might turn it around. I'm not sure. It doesn't look like it so far, because every game that I've watched, and I've watched all of them on film, I've done 2 of them in the booth, their offense is dreadful. And it starts with their offensive line. I know their quarterback play has not been great.
Just bad.
But Jim's offensive line has been atrocious.
Okay, so this week you're doing the Oklahoma game, and Lincoln Riley is what Chip Kelly was about 9 years ago, which is
the offensive guru in the country.
And people are copying him left and right. By the way, Baker's not as good since he left him, not making definitive opinions. Kyler Murray's not as slick. I don't know. We've seen
not
this before. Anyway, the point
not
being
is
I watch Oklahoma, and I look at Jalen Hurts, and I don't buy into Jalen Hurts. I buy into Lincoln Riley. So tell me this. What is he doing? Now, I knew when Chip Kelly was doing it, Chip was just speeding the game up every 13 seconds.
Sure.
With Lincoln Riley, without boring the you-know-what, schematically, you're a quarterback. Yeah. What is going on? What is he doing? Everybody's like, I can't stop that.
Okay. There's 2 things happening.
Okay.
One is he is very good at getting NFL style of matchups. Okay, so he changes his personnel group and his formation and creates movement and motions in order to gain an advantage personnel-wise. He does that as well as anybody.
Okay, to get a fast running back and a slow linebacker.
That's right. Or his fastest wide receiver on a safety, or a tight end on a small corner, so on and so forth.
That's what the great offensive guys do.
He creates matchups that are very advantageous for Oklahoma. And then I think the most underrated part of this is that there are a lot of guys that can be great offensive coaches on Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night, forming these game plans. He's a special play caller. When his timing and his ability to build on the offense, see, I think great play callers, what they do is they take their offense and they build a narrative for the defense to look at. And while the defense doesn't even understand it, they're subconsciously communicating things to the defense with those looks, those formations, the movement. And then what happens is they have plays and plays and plays off of the same looks and action. And so if you're a linebacker now, you're sitting there and you've seen the guard and tackle pull 4 different times out of 4 different formations. But every time that they pull, man, they run that counter scheme. And here comes that counter, and it's a dangerous run scheme, and you got to go up and stop it. Well, all of a sudden, that guard and tackle pull now it's the 5th time you've seen it, and you run right up into the line of scrimmage. And then Calcaterra, the tight end, just kind of pops right by you, and he's wide open behind the linebackers.
So stuff looks the same.
Yes, it looks the same. It's simple for the offense. It's repetitive for the offense, and yet for the defense, it's maddening to try to decipher and recognize it. So he does a great job with formations, personnel, creating matchups, and then off of that, he does a marvelous job. He's the best in the country at building his offensive system during the game as a play caller, and he does that as well as anybody.
Okay, now, there's 7 big brands in college football. We've talked Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma, Texas, Notre Dame, and USC. It's nothing against the rest of them. Those are the 7 big brands. Those move the TV. Now, Georgia's great, but they don't move a TV number like in Alabama. USC loses in Seattle this weekend. They're looking for a new football coach.
Probably, even with last week's win, and that was all well and good. Have the third-string guy Fink come in and beat Utah and so on and so forth.
It's Utah. You should beat Utah in the Coliseum. Bottom line, do you think they can beat Washington?
No, I don't. I think Washington is really good. Jacob Eason, the quarterback at Washington, is very underrated. 24-28 at BYU in a win last week. I think Washington is underrated in large part because everyone wrote them off after they lost to Cal. Cal's a pretty good football team. They're undefeated. Justin Wilcox has one of the best secondaries in the country. And so I think USC goes up there, and I think they get beat pretty handily by Washington.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Now
I don't know what the number is. I think it's 14.
Oh, that can't be the number. I think it's
believe
9.
it is.
It's 9. If it's...
I believe it's 14.
Go, hey, Goulet, look that up. You're a degenerate. Anyway, I think it's got to be closer to 9. What? So you think USC gets waxed?
I do.
It's 10.5. Holy moly!
See, all the experts are like me. They know it should be higher.
Okay, according to Fox Bet, it's 10.5. Well, USC is looking for a new coach Saturday night. All right, Joel Klatt. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.